Marpe is the chair of our Board of Trustees. I give an update on the trustees action this year, and I turn this off, Jim. We'll turn that on so we don't overwhelm folks.
Okay. Go ahead. All right. Well, good evening. I'm Jim Marpe, the chair of the Board of Trustees, and thank you all for turning out this evening for what is a combination of celebration and official meeting. So, as the chair of the trustees, I find myself regularly asking myself, what would Edward Bedford do? And Bonnie's already mentioned that this building that we're meeting in is one important part of his legacy and donation to the building and the creation of the Y. But there are a couple of other things, as I was thinking about this presentation, that are important things that Mr. Bedford left us with. One was a sense of structure and management. In a very interesting way, he saw a role for two boards. One, the board of directors, to look after the day-to-day operations and revenues of the organization, but also a board of trustees to act more as a monitor of the assets, both the physical assets, the buildings, as well as the financial assets. And it's a very interesting, there's a certain dynamic tension there, but it results, I think, in some very effective management of our physical assets as well as our financial assets, and has left us with a strong balance sheet and strong investment processes to go forward. And the other thing he left us with is a sense of stewardship and the importance of the community. And I guess maybe the other thing that was so important, as the giver who keeps on giving, he left us with an endowment, which we continue to receive money from, which helps us in our operations. The Edward Bedford endowment that at least works for the Y is about $3.3 million, and we get a certain amount of funds from that each year, which helps us in our operations. But more importantly, Bonnie talked about the decision process that took place in the past year and the confidence we had to go forward with building Mahakano and building what matters. That confidence was there, I think, in both boards, because we have the strength of balance sheet and the due diligence that's taken place that allows us as directors and as trustees to be comfortable that we can undertake what is in effect a $38 million project and do that in a financially responsible way so that it can be sustained after it's created. I'm here to report our assets are strong, and that, as I say, is part of what gives us that confidence. I mentioned the endowment fund that we received, the spin-off from Mr. Bedford's generous donation. But we also have $5.2 million of investable funds that, if you were listening to the summary of the last year's annual report, it was 5.1 last year. We, as a board of trustees, took the action to take our funds out of what were sort of traditional marketplace instruments. Stocks made up 60–70% of the portfolio, and we put it into basically money market equivalents because we were concerned about volatility. We wanted to know that we would have $5.2 million in the bank when and if we needed it. So we made those conservative decisions. I'm pleased to say that the 5.1 grew to 5.2. It's unclear, particularly during the behavior of the markets in the last, in the last 4 years, but then even in the last 4 weeks, whether we would have been able to sustain that value. So that was one of the, I think, important actions that we took early on in order to be sure that if we were to need those investment funds to help complete the construction, and we hope we don't have to, but if we do, they're there and we can count on them, and that gives the banks that we'll work with to do construction financing the confidence that we have the capability to go about this process, in addition to the pledges we receive and the funds we receive from the sale of this building. And I'd like to think that going forward, what Edward Bedford, I believe, really stood for, and there's evidence of it all over Westport, is really responsible stewardship. To be good stewards to the community, to be good stewards of the Westport Western family Y. So one of the other questions that we started asking about a year ago was, frankly, are we confident that the projections that we've made as an organization will hold up? The notion of sustainability of the Y, notwithstanding our ability to raise the money to build the building, will we be able to attract membership, and will we be able to do it in a way that will allow us to continue to operate without dipping into our otherwise investable assets? So we did take a look at the trends throughout this area in terms of interest in Ys, and as well as the national trends. And we spent a lot of time with people from the National Y organization, as well as people who have consulted with them to double check our thinking. Rob and I were meeting one day at a fundraising event with a CEO who lives locally, and he just appropriately asked the question, do you really think you can get 8,000 members when our membership is significantly lower than that right now? And while we were confident of it in a certain way, that caused us to go back and rethink some of our assumptions and double check our math, if you will, to be sure that we would be able to get there. So again, as I mentioned, we looked at sort of the national trends in the development of Y. We continue to do ongoing consulting with Y experts who helped us understand, among other things, that most Ys go about the building process in a phased approach as we're doing it. That in fact, Ys that are in similar demographics to ours have experienced enormous increases in their membership, and that happened over and over again. It wasn't there wasn't a mixed message universally throughout the country. Ys that have done what we're about to do have seen amazing growth in membership because it becomes a more attractive facility. We looked locally in the sense of within a 2-3 hours drive of here to see what other Ys, again, similar demographics, what had they achieved, and what were the services and programs and features that they offered that would attract members. And that led us to our thinking about what are the features and functions we want to have in that first phase of the building. What are the most important things we can be building to attract and build our membership that will allow us to sustain ourselves going forward. And then we re-looked at the budget projections. Shin, our treasurer, or chief financial officer, I'm sorry, Brian's our treasurer, has done a remarkable amount of forward-looking analysis in terms of what if, what if, what if. So we're confident that with even though we have a maximum membership that's been approved of 8,000, if we come in at 6,000 members or 7,000 members, we are comfortably within our ability to sustain ourselves as an operation, particularly under the phased approach we're now taking. So I think that's an important message that has to go back to potential donors, that we're not doing this and hoping that build it, they will come. We can demonstrate with data, with analysis, that we can sustain ourselves financially, and that we can increase our membership based on all kinds of trend data and analysis from other Ys around the country. And of course, we continue, and the building committee has got the ongoing value engineering activity that's taking place to be sure that we don't put one more dollar into the building than we have to, and that every dollar is well spent and directed toward the most important functions that we can offer as a Y on the day we open our doors in 2014. So our simple formula for success, there's no music associated with this, is that as donations go up, our need to draw on our assets and to create debt goes down. So my message to all of you is to be out there helping us in any way you can, to find people who want to contribute to our capital campaign, building what matters. This is how we will truly sustain ourselves over time. A strong balance sheet, growth in membership, and an operating set of operating activities that provides us with the sustainability to be a Y that another 85 years from now people will be saying those people did their stewardship and made this happen. Thank you for your time today, and I appreciate you.